This is an important announcement for anyone who wants to advertise here on Everyone Loves Guitar. Over the last 9 months alone, we've had 425,000 more downloads, added over 25,000 monthly listens, and grown our YouTube subscriber base by 72 times. During this time, we've kept our advertising rates consistent, but we will be increasing rates on January 1st. So if you're a business looking to generate new leads or increase your cash flow by picking up new clients or customers, or if you're a label looking to promote new music, then listen up. For information on advertising on Everyone Loves Guitar, fill in the short form at everyonelovesguitar.com/advertise. Again, that's everyonelovesguitar.com/advertise. Even if you want to advertise next year, you'll get to lock into marketing your product or service at the current rates before rates go up at the end of this year. You know, much of your success as an online business, especially with guitars, will depend on your domain name. The owner of 2 great guitar domain names has contacted me, and he has them for sale. Those 2 domain names are guitarbuyers.com and cashforguitars.com. Call or email them at the contact information listed on that page, and they will give you 20% off the purchase price. In addition, they'll work with you to make payments if that's what you need. Again, that's guitarbuyers.com and cashforguitars.com. If you want to buy or sell a home or investment property and you're here in the Tampa Bay area, in Hillsborough, Pinellas, or Pasco counties, then listen up. West Florida Real Estate is a local residential real estate broker that's helped over 250 Bay Area homeowners buy and sell their properties in the last 4 years alone. If you're looking to sell, you'll want to get their free report, The 7 Biggest Mistakes Homeowners Make When Hiring a Realtor. And if you're looking to buy a property, you definitely want to get your hands on the 21 Most Expensive Mistakes Tampa Home Buyers Make When Buying a Home. Each one of these reports is going to save you time and money. Inside, you'll discover the 7 most important things to consider when hiring a realtor, what to do if you're buying and selling a home at the same time, and the danger of choosing a realtor who agrees with everything you say. To get your hands on these free reports, head on over to westfloridarealestate.com. That's westfloridarealestate.com. Hey, this is Craig. If you like this show and you want to support it and you want to keep it free, head on over to everyonelovesguitar.com/support. That's everyonelovesguitar.com/support. Hey everybody, this is Craig Garber. Welcome to Everyone Loves Guitar, and we've got a really great acoustic guitarist with us today with Christie Lenee just before she's about to head off to Europe. And a couple of quick announcements. One, I want to say thanks to Janet Robin for hooking us up. And second, don't forget you can now watch these on YouTube in addition to listening to the podcast wherever you listen to them. So a little bit about Christie's background, and then we'll get into it. Singer, songwriter, and renowned fingerstyle guitarist Christie Lenee is often described as, this is really good actually, Michael Hedges meets Joni Mitchell and Dave Matthews. That was like really accurate. She shared stages with Tommy Emmanuel, Tim Reynolds from Dave Matthews Band, Andy McKee, and Amy Ray, who's been on this show, and we just got to do a little more to finish our interview and release it. To name a few, she won first place in the 2017 International Fingerstyle Guitar Championship. She's released 5 albums, and her last record, Stay, she was one of the 3 finalists for the Best CD of 2016 and the Indie Acoustic Project Awards. The album includes 3 instrumentals produced by Grammy Award-winning producer Will Ackerman, who founded Wyndham Hill Records. That's like some serious name dropping there, right? And a music video for the title track supporting a movement on suicide prevention, which we'll talk about actually because I watched that video. It was really intense. She's got over 12,000 fans on Facebook and nearly 500,000 plays on YouTube, and continues spreading her love of music through live performance, radio airplay, and appearances on multiple TV stations. Her most recent music video, Call My Heart Back Home, premiered via Acoustic Guitar Magazine. Her next video, Free World Citizen, is an anthem expressing the connection of all beings. As an artist, she hopes to bring joy, freedom, and light to the world through the love of music. Christie, thanks so much for your time. I appreciate you coming on the show.
My pleasure, Craig. Thank you so much for having me.
You're very welcome.
This is the first time I've ever used my studio microphone on a podcast.
I'm sorry for all the hassle. It sounds great for whatever it's worth. What is the process?
That's all that matters, is that it sounds great.
No, it really does. There's a little of a delay on this side. I think it's because the Wi-Fi is traveling through the mountains or something like that. But I know there's a little delay, so I apologize.
That's exactly what's happening.
Is that it?
Can you hear the fan in the background?
I do not. I cannot hear the fan in the background.
Okay, good.
No. What's the process involved in competing in the Fingerstyle Guitar Championship? And I was also curious, how did it feel to win? And have you gotten any good opportunities as a result of this exposure?
Yeah, absolutely. It was a really interesting experience to win that competition. It was, I didn't really understand exactly what it was all about. And until I got there, it's actually a blind competition. So the judges are actually in a bus behind the venue, and they cannot see you. They don't know your name. They don't know your gender or anything. They only know that you are a number, and you can't plug in anything. You just have to literally walk up to the microphone and play. So no amplification, nothing. And they take the first 50 people get in, take 50, and then 5 go into the finalist round, and then 1 takes home first place. So it was a very interesting experience because I'd never done a competition before, and I know a lot of people who have, I found out later, who have tried to do this competition multiple times over and over, and I guess it's kind of rare to go in and win the first time. So I was pretty excited about that, especially because I don't really know anything about guitar competitions. I did have some guidance from some friends in the guitar industry who have done these things before, so I could kind of have an idea of things to do and things not to do, such as don't go over my time limit because you could get disqualified and certain things like that. And winning that was definitely, you get 2 pieces in the first round. And you can't go over 5 minutes, 2 songs in 5 minutes. So I had to rearrange my pieces because each piece tends to be longer than 2.5 minutes.
Yeah.
So I had to, rearrange my pieces to make that happen. And for the finalist round, I actually played the song for Michael Prakash, which is I know is in your questionnaire. You were asking about him. Michael Prakash is he's an artist, a painter, and that was actually the very first instrumental piece that I ever wrote, and it was a work for hire. He asked me to create a piece of music based off of his painting, Tableau Vivant. And he wanted me to tell the story of love, and which is ironic because, everybody's story of love is pretty different. So he wanted me to do that and start off really playful and romantic and move into the feeling of falling in love, and then to have this sparkly moment, which is the moment of conception, and then a big boom, which is the birth of the child, and the rest of the song is like a victorious celebration of life. So that's the synopsis that I got to do this particular composition, and I wrote it 10 years ago, but I knew that it was the piece I wanted to play in the finals, and because there's technically multiple different movements, the part in the middle where there's the big movement, it's the birth of the child, it goes into a new tempo. So instead of playing 2 pieces for the finalist round, what I did was I arranged that piece so that it felt like movement 1 and movement 2, and movement 1 actually ended and then movement 2 started, whereas usually when I play it, it's all one piece of music, but it does feel like multiple movements. So I did that, and it was interesting because I wrote the piece 10 years ago, but I'm still writing it. Kind of, it's just like it's become this this evolution of a composition. Is one of I do have a piece called Evolution, which I always called my opus, but now a song for Michael Prakash has kind of become my opus because I've already recorded it twice, and now I'm about to record it again on my next album. But I'm finally going to do the orchestral arrangement type of version that I've always wanted to do. I just hadn't gotten around to doing that yet. So, you know, the song has evolved in a lot of different transformations, and winning the competition was remarkable. My email started blowing up, and got all kinds of bookings for things, people responding to things that I'd been festivals and things that I'd been trying to get into for ages. And
That's
all
great.
of a sudden they said yes. And that's really cool for that to happen.
And I'm assuming this is ongoing now, the results, the positive feedback, the positive opportunities that are coming from this.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just having the title 2017 International Fingerstyle Guitar Champion, and now 2019 Acoustic Guitarist of the Year finalist. Hopefully we'll remove the word finalist soon and it'll just say Acoustic Guitarist of the Year. And you know, that it's so interesting what language can do to inspire people to want to listen to music. You know, it's kind of like if somebody puts a little thing on the front of an album that says featuring performances by XYZ, and the names that you know, or produced by, like you said, Will Ackerman. And so, oh, okay, I know Will Ackerman. So all of a sudden people want to listen to it. And it's kind of like that with having this kind of title, because people are like, oh, I got to hear this person play. Whereas versus somebody just saying, oh, she's a great guitar player. It's different, you know? So yeah, it's been remarkable, the what's happened, for sure.
Yeah. Well,
as a result of winning that.
Congratulations on that. And I think it's a competition for time, and that justifies someone's time.
What do you mean by that?
Well, like, okay, so we're all busy. You only have X amount of time during the day, right? So you have to determine, how do I allocate this time? And if you see international, you know, winner of this, now it's like, oh, that person's worth, I need to fit that person into my slot. If they don't know who you are, now it's a door opener for time.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds good on paper, that's for sure.
Hey, no, it's great. It sounds good in any way. You know, it's a great opportunity for you. I'm really happy you got that, and I hope it opens tons of doors for a long time. I'm sure it will.
Absolutely.
What attracted you to Fingerstyle Acoustic, and when did you first get involved playing in that style of acoustic?
I actually, it's very strange, because a lot of people go into the fingerstyle world with the inspiration of playing this kind of new age style of music, such as Michael Hedges, and I'd never actually heard any music like that. I started out with rock and roll. I mean, I love Bonnie Raitt and Pink Floyd, Jimi Hendrix. I started on the electric. I never learned like C, G, D until years after I'd been playing. I started playing by ear and playing to rock records on electric guitar, and that was my thing. And then when I got inspired to study, I was inspired to study classical guitar, and I ended up going to school for it in high school, because whereas I originally started as an acting major, when I heard the teacher from that particular performing arts high school perform at the first concert that year, it was completely life-changing. I'd never heard a guitar do what he did. He played a piece called Sunburst by Andrew York, and I'd never ever heard a guitar do what happened in that piece. And that was my introduction to fingerstyle, but it's more like modern classical. And then I went on to study modern classical music, so, you know, Andrew York obviously, but like Bach and Carcassi and Villalobos, and pieces like Land, the Asturias, and really advanced classical guitar pieces. And that was really how I got into fingerstyle. It wasn't until several years later that I heard of this whole like modern fingerstyle thing of tapping, and that really came from studying composition. And it was very interesting in composition class. We used to, in college, we would read scores, and when you read a score, there's different lines, and you have to sort of, like, if you're looking at a piano piece, you're reading two music staffs at the same time. We'll take that and multiply it by 10, 20, however many instruments are in a score. And if you're looking at all of these different instruments and the melodies move at the same time, and you have to have a very wide perspective, because your eyes have to be able to watch all of this at the same time, like a conductor would do if he's conducting a symphony. And when I saw that for the first time, something occurred to me, and that was that, well, if in a symphony there's different melodies moving at the same time in counterpoint harmony, well, couldn't I view the guitar as each string as one line of a music staff and a music score, in which case I could play multiple things at the same time, but create each string as its own voice. And that was when I got really interested in not playing the guitar traditionally, where both hands are doing the same thing, but whereas each hand is doing something differently, and sometimes even different fingers are doing completely separate things. Maybe this finger is playing a bass line, maybe this finger is playing a middle voice, and maybe my left hand is tapping the chords, or right hand might be playing a drum beat. There's just so many different things that are possible. And that's an ever-evolving journey of trying to figure that out.
What is the toughest thing about that? Because it's almost like playing different instruments at once. What's the toughest challenge of that, to get that all coordinated?
I would say the toughest challenge of trying to do everything at once is it's kind of like rubbing your stomach and tapping your head at the same time, where some people might struggle with that. Well, multiply that by 10 because you have 10 fingers.
Yeah.
And the possibilities are endless. I would say that the toughest thing for me, especially recently, is really trying to hone in on what my feet are doing. And I know this might sound odd, but when I perform solo, I use a foot stomper with my right foot.
Yeah, I saw that.
Which is the sound of a kick drum, and the tambourine with my left foot. So there's already a lot going on with my hands. But now, when I'm integrating what's going on with my feet and playing actual drum beats while doing all of these things, it takes a lot of focus and actually figuring out where all of the pieces line up together, where they're together and where they're separate. So where my right foot is happening at the same time as I'm pulling off a string, or where the tambourine is happening at the same time as I'm hitting a particular chord. That's where it starts to get a little bit challenging.
Yeah.
And I realized, even watching some videos of my performances recently, I'm just like, oh my gosh, my time is all over the place. It's just like so weird, because I spend so much time in life working on my rhythm, and I was never good at it. I couldn't I could not play to a metronome to save my life when I first tried, and now I'm figuring out that it's often the feet that really throws me off, because I'm doing so much at once, and that's the biggest challenge is the feet. And it's really nice when I don't have to do that and can play with a drummer.
I was going to say, is it like, is this the kind of thing you could use a looper for some of the rhythm stuff?
Yeah, there's just something. I do loop sometimes, and I like that, especially if I want to play a lead line on something. I love the sound of a loop and the possibilities of, sometimes I'll loop a chord progression and then play a drum beat and loop that. The problem with looping is that it just takes so long to get all the pieces in there. I love artists who are really good at that, like Keller Williams, and Zach. Oh my gosh, why is my mind blanking right now? Well, Keller Williams is one of the Zach Deputy's the other one. Those are two people who are like masters of looping, where they've got like all of these instruments on stage. And I'm so fascinated by that. And I did actually get into that for a while. I had all these instruments on stage, a MIDI keyboard, and I would loop the drum beat, and then I'd play the horn section and with my MIDI guitar. And the problem that I found was that one section would be looping for so long before I could even get to the thing that I was creating all these layers to do. So I would either have to do one of two things. I'd have to program it, and that feels inauthentic to me.
Yeah, I get that.
Even though I admire people who do that. It's like a whole other piece of the brain. And I actually have honestly purchased that RC30 or the RC300 loop station about actually 3 times now, and I've returned it every single time because I realized it was taking over my life.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, do I want to get good at looping and programming, or do I want to become a better guitar player?
Yeah.
Or a better songwriter, or a better singer. And you kind of got to choose your battles in this life. There's not that much time. So I figured if I'm going to stomp my foot while I'm playing anyway, I might as well put a wooden piece that's going to be amplified into the sound system, and that saves me the time of having to loop a beat. I can just do it at the same time.
Yeah.
And then that way the sections of the song can move as they would, and I don't have to keep repeating this one thing just to get to the melody, if that makes sense.
Makes total sense. And it also makes sense that you got to focus on what you like. And like, I think what you said is really important. Do I want to become the best looper, or do I want to take this time, which is pretty comprehensive, and invest it into my guitar and my songwriting? That makes a ton of sense. I totally get that. Your music video,
yeah, there's only so much time in the day, right?
Unfortunately, it is. Your 2016 album Stay that I mentioned, that the title song, the video for that's pretty intense. It has to do with somebody struggling with alcohol and drugs and preventing suicide. I was curious if you're comfortable discussing this. Is there a backstory behind that song, and have you been impacted by any of the things in there?
Yes, there's a big backstory. Actually, my best friend from high school, he was actually my introduction to Dave Matthews. My very best friend and musical partner for many years. His name's Adam. And actually his birthday was just a couple of days ago. But he struggled with alcoholism. His dad was an alcoholic, and he also had Crohn's disease.
Oh yeah.
And he had a lot of pain but he was one of the most talented musicians that I've ever known. And we had a musical duo for a long time, then had a band. He lived with me in Taiwan. We toured together, and I actually had to dismiss him from the band 2 years before he died, because he was getting really drunk on stage and being completely belligerent. And we had a lot of conversations about it. And I, it's kind of like, I kept trying to help him. We all were trying to help him, but he wasn't willing to help himself. And so after he was just dismissed from the band, he seemed like he was doing better, and because he was actually because he was really trying to do better. It was kind of a wake-up call for him. But I think that was what he was showing on the outside. He wanted everybody to think that he was doing better, but really, obviously, he wasn't. And I saw him on Thanksgiving 9 years ago, and he seemed completely happy and full of life and smiling. And 2 days later, he killed himself, and
Wow.
Nobody saw it coming. We all, and he, I mean, it's just the saddest thing and the most horrible news I've ever had to receive. And I just send some compassion to anybody who's ever lost someone to suicide. It's something that you can never understand, and it's something that never fully heals. I mean, I've written many songs for Adam, and there's one that I wrote called Sweet Charm. I haven't recorded it yet, but it's about the ashes inside of a charm that's inside on his mother's heart that she's had since he died. And I wrote a song about that, and just the other day, this was 9 years ago, and I was teaching the song to my bass player, and just started crying. And I mean, it's 9 years,
Right.
and so it doesn't ever heal, but there's I decided after enough time of dealing with that grief that I had a choice, and I had the choice to swim inside that grief, or to try to help other people who were going through whatever he was going through, and let other people realize that we all have moments of wanting to run away, not necessarily suicide. Maybe many people, I'm sure, regardless if they're willing to admit it, have thought about just completely giving up in some sort of way, whether it means leaving a job or a relationship or leaving life itself. But the message in the song "Stay" is to realize that we are not alone in that. Like, we all go through struggles, and we all have pain, but we're in it together. And the song stays, with the hope to inspire somebody that there's hope, and you don't have to run away, and you'll get through it. So yeah, there's a long backstory. We could do a whole podcast on that, but I hope that the song can keep touching people.
Thanks first of all, I'm really sorry for your loss, and thank you very much for sharing that. That was cool of you to do that. And it's odd. I had, Neil Casal, who recently passed. I don't know if you know who he is.
No.
So he was I
don't know him.
He played for the Chris Robinson Brotherhood. He was pretty popular. He's a great guitarist. He just died 2 weeks ago, or about a week ago. I had him on my show literally 2 weeks to the day before that. And, it's kind of the same thing. Like, everybody said, well, did you see signs? And I'm like, how do you know? I mean, no, I didn't see signs that told me this person was going to take their life. No, I mean, everybody's got issues, but so I understand. And I had some family members. I had a family member that committed suicide. So I understand that, some of what you've gone through. So it's just it's a really, I don't know. It's hard to put your hands around it. And I think because of that, it makes probably the grieving process that much more difficult. There's never a resolution as there is with someone was, hit by a car, or someone had an illness. It's kind of like a closure. With suicide, I don't think you have that closure.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, I was engaged several years ago, and we haven't been together since 2015, but I found out back in April that my ex-fiance committed suicide, and
Wow.
and that is something that and that's something that
sorry.
I mean, I'm still kind of, thank you, but I'm still processing that. And the thing that's very interesting is that is a precise example of sometimes you have no idea what somebody's going through. No idea, because people cover it up. They hide their pain under a smile. And that's what Adam did. He seemed very happy. I knew he dealt with pain. I knew he was an alcoholic, but that doesn't mean that any of us saw that he wanted to kill himself. I mean, I'm sorry to be so blunt, but that's the truth. But the thing that's really interesting and powerful about music, and why I do what I do, and why I fly all over the world to do what I do, it's not really for me about the guitar. For me, it is it's a mode of self-expression. It's also therapy for me to express myself through music, but I realize over and over that it's therapy for other people. And there was a woman in Richmond who came up to me and told me that my song "Stay" saved her life, and that she had a plan, and she came to my show, and she decided not to kill herself. And for me to hear that is like, I can't think of any other better gift in this life than to offer a song that can help somebody just life.
Wow.
And that's amazing.
Goosebumps when you said that. That's pretty powerful shit.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that again. That was kind of. You're a top 3 finalist now for acoustic guitars of the year. When and where are the final selections for this being made, and what are the potential upsides of winning this competition?
Well, it's going to be September 22nd. I'm going to London to perform at the UK Guitar Show. This particular competition is in front of an audience and a judge, or a series of judges. It's going to be a crazy weekend. I'm jumping on the last red-eye flight after performing 5 sets with my band at Winfield, and to make it for my show the next day. It's kind of the things we got to do as musicians to pull it off when we get opportunities. But winning would be remarkable. It's this competition is through Music Radar magazine, which is a big music magazine over in Europe, and it would mean massive media coverage. Obviously, regardless, being in the top 3, definitely going to be seen by a lot of people. And it's kind of, I see it as a kind of break into the UK, because I've never played in the UK, and ironically, because I have traveled a lot, but I am going back to the UK to do some shows in October. So it's just kind of perfect timing that this is happening in September. So I'm going out there for 48 hours in the middle of a tour, and then coming back to finish, and then going back to the UK in October. And hopefully more people will come to my show, if anything, so in London. So that's exciting.
Well, congratulations and good luck. And I hope you have to get another banner to hang up there. That would be great.
Yes, absolutely. That would add to the bullet points of career highlights.
Totally. You grew up here in Tampa, right?
I did grow up in Tampa. Yeah, I went to Blake High School of Performing Arts and studied with John Michael Paris, and University of South Florida in the music program.
What was your childhood like growing up here?
Oh, well, it depends on what part of my childhood you want to talk about.
It depends on whatever you want to talk about.
Well, I was actually, when I was 4 years old, I entered a group called the Entertainment Review, which is still active. You might have heard of it. It's a song and dance ensemble. And my sister was the youngest member of the group. And I used to go and actually watch her to watch her do all her dances and songs in the group, and I learned the songs. I used to go home and practice the dances, and finally asked the director if I could audition, and she looked at me a little silly at first because I was only 4 and wanted to audition. The youngest member at that time was 8, and but I knew all the dances and songs, and she let me in. She was the first person to give me an opportunity and believe in me, and that was really powerful. And so I had some solos. I did sang "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" for like some kind of Cincinnati Reds banquet, and sang on all kinds of different things, like the Jack Harris show, which is at Busch Gardens. I don't even know if it still exists, but it's like a TV show, and they. I remember when they interviewed me when I was 4, and they said, what are you going to do when you become rich and famous? And I said, I'm going to buy my daddy a BMW. And they asked who my favorite singer was, and I said Bonnie Raitt. And what's funny about that is that for years as a kid, Bonnie Raitt was my favorite singer, but I didn't know she was the guitar player on all those records. And when I was in the jazz band in high school, when I was in the jazz band in high school, my teacher comes up and he's snapping and grooving and swinging, and he says, "Girl, you're the next Bonnie Raitt on that guitar." And I was like, "Bonnie Raitt's a guitar player?" And he's like, "She's one of my favorite guitar players ever." And it's just so funny because I had no idea that she was the one playing all those killer guitar solos. So that was pretty significant. And there was a period of time in my childhood around 11 when my parents divorced, and that was when I first got my, first guitar. And that was when I sort of really needed it the most in terms of finding my voice and finding myself, a little bit of self-expression and somewhere to put all of those emotions about a broken family and trying to find that wholesomeness and connection within something. And so my childhood definitely was involved in the entertainment industry in terms of like acting and theater and stuff, but it evolved into music over time.
That's really cool. What was that? Your first guitar? Was it a Strat? Your
It
first
was a
one?
Fender Squire,
Oh,
a black Fender Squire with a little with the whammy bar. And it's so funny. I haven't had a guitar with a whammy bar ever since until I got my Gretsch White Falcon, and it's been one of my favorite. That has the Bigsby on there. I love that guitar.
yeah, that's a great guitar. That's
Yeah,
Billy Duffy plays that guitar, I think, if you know who that is.
Billy Duffy sounds familiar to me. I'm trying to
Guitar
think
player
of
for
who
the
that
Cult.
is. Okay,
Yeah.
awesome.
You left Tampa. You've lived in a bunch of places. I was curious. Talk about some of the places you lived. Maybe what prompted the moves and what you enjoy most about them.
Yeah. Right when I was finishing up with college, I went to visit my uncle, who's one of the most inspiring people on this planet. He actually broke the Guinness Book of World Records for the most skydiving jumps in one day. He's
Holy crap.
absolutely insane and awesome. He flies all over the world to do these crazy motorcycle trips on just these epic adventures. And he used to, when I was younger, take me to, Broadway shows up in New York, and he took me to see Dave Matthews and Tim Reynolds at Radio City Music Hall, just all kinds of things like that. He's a really cool uncle, and I went to visit him right at the end of my tenure at USF, and he just bought this crazy house, and it was huge. And I was like, who in the world is going to live here with you? He's like, oh, I don't know. I'm going to fix it up and sell it. That was one thing that he likes to do, among other things. And he said, if you ever need a home in Philadelphia, you can come here. And I said, really? Because I kind of want to leave Florida. Can I move here? So I moved in with him, and I kind of started building my base in Philadelphia, New York, and DC, and all places in the Northeast, and then eventually got my own place within a year. And so I lived in Philadelphia area for about 6 years, and then moved to Portland, fell in love, and ran off to the Northwest, and fell in love with a person, but also with the community and the energy out in Portland. I ended up coming back to Florida for a little bit, and then went to Nashville with an N, and now I'm in Lake Lure, just outside of Asheville, which is completely different. I'm here, for those of you watching the video, in my log cabin home in my studio, and it's completely different than any place that I've ever lived, but it's amazing. It's out in the woods. I see mountains. All I can hear is the sound of the creek every morning, and it's magic. I love it.
You know what? My wife really loved it up there, and I was like, there's nothing to do. What do you give me a typical, convince me, like what would there be to do up there? Like I said, is there a gym nearby? She goes, no, you got to drive quite a ways. So I mean, tell me, pretend you're a Lake Lure real estate salesperson or something.
Well, there's hikes and waterfalls. You can go out on the lake beach and rent a kayak or a canoe and paddle around. You can go hike up to many waterfalls. Chimney Rock is an international attraction, a brilliant state park with beautiful waterfall and all kinds of hiking trails. There's Catawba Falls. There's a Buffalo Creek State Park that has 18 miles of biking trails and lots of outdoor kind of activities. Yeah. I like it because I've got 3 airports that I kind of frequent, which is Asheville, Charlotte, and Greenville. But I really like the seclusion. And it took a while for me to get used to it because I've always lived in more major cities.
Right.
But I travel so much these days that I kind of really enjoy coming home and just having complete silence.
Yeah.
When I first moved here, silence was actually like kind of deafening. I'd never heard quiet like that, where you don't hear cars or planes and all these sounds that we're so used to hearing. But through that silence, I've had to really listen to what's going on inside of myself, and you can't run from it when you're living up in a place like this. You really got to face it. And so I've written some of my most vulnerable songs living up here, and some of the most heartfelt lyrics that I've ever written, because it's kind of like, I don't know, there's a bit of an expectation when you're surrounded in a city and all these different other writers, but when you're out here in the middle of the woods, it's just kind of like whatever comes out, and then I can go out into the world and share it. But yeah, I appreciate the balance of complete seclusion and then complete submersion in culture when I'm on the road, or when I just want to go into Asheville and feel like I'm a part of a culture and not isolated in the woods. I need a little bit of both.
Yeah, I could totally get it with you're a performer, and it's probably really nice to just decompress and not have to deal with anybody. I totally get that.
Yeah, it's kind of like a little bubble here in Lake Lore. I mean, it's very different, very slow paced. Sometimes I just got to do jumping jacks to get myself moving because it's so peaceful. And sometimes I just want to lay in my hammock and read a book or lay in the sun. And then I realize, oh wait, I've got work to do. So got to get things moving. It's good.
What do you have a lot of cool stuff going on. Is there anything specific you're looking to do more of over the next few years? Either business, personal, whatever, musically, whatever you'd like to talk about.
Yeah, well, I always wanted to do more shows with a band. This whole thing about playing percussion with my feet is very humbling and cool, but there's nothing like playing with a great drummer and bass player and having them cover all the bases, and so I could just go wah! And sort of embrace my rock and roll side and play more electric. So that's kind of the next thing. And we are doing some shows this month. We just did our first kickoff one. I reunited with my band that I had in Philadelphia, and I'm bringing them out to Kansas to do the Walnut Valley Festival. So yeah, I'd say more band shows.
Great.
And yeah, traveling with a crew.
Yeah.
Versus just sort of showing up by myself all the time. Yeah.
I would imagine getting a band too is going to take a lot of pressure off you, where you could just like do your thing and not have to worry about doing everybody's thing at the same time.
Yeah, and definitely from a musical standpoint and a business standpoint and travel-wise, I mean, just having help with various things is incredibly significant. I'm actually bringing an engineer as well for this festival who I hope to have travel with me more, because we've worked together a bit, and there's something really powerful about having an engineer who knows your music and who can actually add effects to the vocals in the spots and they're like a part of the band. And so I'm pretty excited about that, and just having more of like a solid foundation of people who are there to back me up. Because who wants to do it alone? I mean, I don't, but I do a lot because you got to do what you got to do to be successful in life. And it's kind of like, it's like when you're looking for a manager, it's like a full-time job, but you can't not work while you're looking for your full-time job. It's kind of like that, or looking for a new agent or whatever. When people in the industry are trying to find that, it's kind of like, well, still, no matter how many people are working for you, you have to make sure that everything is kind of running correctly. So it definitely takes a lot of work, but it's worth it when you get great people involved. And And so, same thing with these band shows coming up. It's more work, but it's awesome. And then once some of that work is done, then it's less work, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Well, plus you're moving up, the musical and financial food chain, that it can afford you the opportunity to have these things and expand whatever you're doing at your discretion, and not, I got to do this because, which is great and good for you.
Yeah, absolutely. But it takes time and lots of patience, like anything in life. We got to have patience.
You've talked about a couple of them. Any other maybe like low points or dark periods you've had to deal with, and how'd you get through those?
Well, I would say living up in this cabin has been, when I first moved up here, I was very challenged because I was very isolated. And like I said, that the silence was deafening, and it was just kind of like, how in the world did I end up in this place? And part of it is, I've always had this vision of being living in a log cabin and in the mountains and looking out at a waterfall and having a recording studio. And part of that vision has been in this, also in the vision is having a partner there with me to share that with. And part of one of my biggest fears is, I've been taking a lot of time with myself to kind of recalibrate emotionally from past relationships. And when I first moved up here, I had this fear of like, well, oh gosh, what's it going to be like to live in a place like that by myself? Like,
sure.
And it's very strange because, I've had this, a lot of patterns of, just lots of wonderful relationships, and some long-term and some shorter. But I think it's very hard as a musician to really find somebody that totally gets it, that understands what it takes to get to where you want to be. And it is a gift when you can find that. But sure. And I've thought that I have several times, and I think it's just that I had to do some more self-work and realize that, I think any child who comes from a family of divorced parents, there's a little bit of a seeking of connection and a seeking of wanting to feel like you belong to something and feel like there's a completion within that. And I've kind of lived a lot of my adult life in that way. And I think one thing through a lot of different forms of self-work that I've done is realizing that I can't find completion from a place or a person. It has to come from within. And that is it takes a lot of work to be able to do that. And that's been the biggest challenge of really, really being okay with me and being okay with all my faults and being willing to talk about it in my music, because I've always wanted to be this kind of inspirational songwriter who is like, writing songs that lift people up. And I realized a couple years ago, well, what if I'm not in a it's guys that I can feel broken sometimes too. And that's pretty powerful to realize, oh wait, I can still be inspirational by being real.
Very, very much so. I want to thank you for being so open and a couple of things. Number one, I want to thank you for being so open and honest. It's really interesting because I've done at this point close to 600 interviews, and with 100% non-exception, women get more into it like right away, like you did, whereas I could speak to a guy for an hour and 15 minutes. And then at the hour and 15 minute point, oh, by the way, I'm dealing with, I just got sober or something, you know, pretty significant. And so I really appreciate, it's really interesting. I really appreciate talking. I don't know what's different about women and men, but you know, I interviewed, I bet you know, Vicky Genfan. Do you know Vicky Genfan?
Of course.
Right.
Vicky's amazing.
She's so freaking
She's a dear
cool.
friend. Absolutely.
Yeah. She got into her story. I don't know if you know her story. I'm sure you do. It was like 5 minutes into the interview, I'm like, oh my God, you are so awesome. You know, she was just like, let me, you know, tell you all the sort of like dysfunctional shit I had to deal with. And it was like, wow. So I'm always amazed and impressed over and over again when I'm talking with women about how open they are with sharing things. So first, thank you very much. And second, I agree with you. I think, you know, you got to feel good about yourself first and foremost before, you know, whether you can make someone else feel good or not, it almost doesn't matter, because if you're not feeling good, like, it's not really that important what you're doing to other people. So I think everything you're saying makes sense. And not that I'm not without my own self-work, but, you know, it sounds like you're doing great, and I wish you nothing but continued success, as I know you're going to have on that journey, you know?
Well, thank you.
You're
we
welcome.
all need some self-work.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Whether it's in context of relationship with someone else or in context of relationship with ourselves, but we can't forget about the second part, or you know, the relationship with ourselves, because that's the most important relationship. If we don't have that, you don't have anything, in my opinion. You can't really give anything to anybody if you're not complete in your own heart. That's only my opinion, though. Some people might disagree.
No, I agree with you. Let's talk about gear for just a few minutes. What's your go-to guitar, and what other, I don't know if you have people that play acoustic. I notice they don't have like, they're not like electric guitar players where they got a rack. They have like 2 or 3 guitars maybe. Yeah. So tell me about the guitars you play.
Yeah, well, it depends on if we're talking about in the studio or live. Live, I've been using my Maton guitars the most, because the pickup system is just unsurpassed in those guitars. The AP5 Pro pickup system is, you know, I can literally take my nails onto the body of the guitar and just tap it, and it will come through the PA system or hit the side of the guitar, and it'll sound like a kick drum. I mean, it's just incredible. So I've got a 12-string Maton and a Maton 808, which is the same guitar that Tommy Emmanuel plays. In the studio, I really love so many different guitars. I actually recently got a custom guitar by a luthier out in Seattle named Irvin Guitars, IRVIN, and that's the newest instrument that I've been playing, and it just records so well. It's just a beautiful handmade instrument that I would encourage everybody to check out his instruments. If you're looking for a custom, he can do anything. Of course, I love my Martins. I have a wonderful relationship with Martin guitars, and I have several of their instruments that I've acquired over the years. 12-string, couple different 6-strings, the J40, and the Martin D18 Golden Era, and I also have the D12 50th anniversary D1228. I forget what it's called. And I have some Luna guitars that I really love as well. They're wonderful people in that company. They do a lot of great things for charity, and I really love what they're doing. And I also have some, I've got that Gretsch White Falcon, and a custom electric by a guy actually based in Tampa named Charles Scroggins. He gave me one of his guitars about 10 years ago, and I love that instrument. Do love playing my Strat as well, which I have acquired, and then I do have these custom 12-string guitars by a guy out in Woodstock, New York, named Bayette Guitars, VEILLETTE, and I have his Griffin, which is a soprano 12-string, and also his baritone 12-string. And I won a Taylor 814 Deluxe at the International Fingerstyle Guitar Championship. So what's crazy about all of these instruments, and I love that guitar. It's incredible. It kind of reminds me of my Martin J40, just really beautiful shimmer with nice low end. And it's interesting because I cannot create an exclusive agreement with any guitar company because instruments are just amazing and they all have such a different voice. And, you know, it's hard to say, oh, I like just this one, because they're all amazing and they're all just something significant. I mean, that nothing can replace my 8-string Luna ukulele. You know, I don't care what anybody says, like that's the best ukulele ever. And you know, so there's just there's a lot of things. Everything has its own, a different voice. And I've been using Silvares strings as well recently, which is a French company that makes just beautiful strings, and they're making a custom string set for me. So long answer to your question about guitars.
No, it's a great answer. I was very impressed with all the guitars you have. Did you deal with Tim at Taylor, Tim Godwin?
You know, I don't have a personal relationship with Taylor. It's just that I won that guitar. And yeah, I won the guitar in the competition. There were actually, there was a Bourgeois and also a Collings and the Taylor. And the Bourgeois was technically supposed to be the one for the winner because it cost about $15,000 for that guitar. I think the Collings is about $8,000. And that Taylor is about maybe $5,500, but that just kind of is a good point about what I'm saying about instruments, is that the other ones might have technically cost more, but the Taylor, when I picked up all three, that was the one that just resonated with me, the voice and the feeling of it, and that was the one I picked. And a couple people were like, "Well, do you realize that the Bourgeois is worth $15,000 and that one's worth, you know, $5,500?" I'm like, well, no, it's worth far more than any number could say, because it is a quality instrument with a voice that resonated with my soul, and that's all that really matters. So, you know, people say, what kind of guitar should I get? Go get the guitar, get something that feels good. It could be a Fender that costs $100 in a store. If it feels good and you can make music with it, it's a great instrument. That's all that really matters, you know. So
I agree with you.
Yeah.
Luna, that is Vicky's company too, I think.
Yes. Yeah. Vicky plays exclusively Luna guitars. She's got a signature model Luna that just sounds absolutely extraordinary. Yeah. They're beautiful guitars. Yeah. I have actually one of their hybrid guitars. It's a hybrid between an electric and an acoustic, and it's really cool instrument. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah. I've heard a couple of people I've spoken to play Lunas. They've all spoken really highly of them.
Oh yeah, they're great guitars. They're great people too. That means a lot when you know,
definitely
want to work with a company. Yeah.
Hey, tell me your
based right there in Tampa.
Luna's in Tampa?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even know that. That is
Tampa.
crazy. That's wild.
Yeah, they are right alongside Dean Guitars. They have two buildings right next to each other as Dean Guitars and Luna, and they're all just right there together.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hey, tell me Desert Island Discs, your top three in no particular order and just for now.
Ooh. Well, first one that pops into my mind is Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon.
Oh, yeah.
That is just one of the best albums of all time. I can't recall the specific album, but a frequent piece of music that I listen to on various playlists is Debussy's Clair de Lune. It's a solo piano music. And I would say between Debussy and any Beethoven, I mean, I could just listen to Beethoven all day long and never get tired of it because the music is so profound. So between those two, and for the third one, Dave Matthews and Tim Reynolds live at Luther College.
That's a good record.
It's a great record.
Yeah. It's funny. The Debussy, amongst the guitar players I've spoken with, for classical, Debussy's number one.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. The music is on a level that doesn't really compare to anything. Same that I feel about Beethoven. And I personally would, this might sound strange, I prefer to listen to piano music over guitar music.
Doesn't sound strange.
And not that I don't listen to guitar. I love guitar music, but I really like symphonic music and bands and trying to think outside of the box of the guitar and more from a space of music. And the piano to me is the most fundamental instrument, and it's what I like to compose on. So
Yeah.
I always go back to the piano, and that's why I prefer to listen to piano music.
I've heard that many times, especially from songwriters, because, you know, you're not necessarily looking to, you're not only looking to hear as a guitar solo, for example, to get you off musically. You know, you're thinking, you're looking for writing ideas, you're looking for compositional ideas, structured things that stimulate you. And that often doesn't, it's often different stuff from, you're going to get more of that from a piano or from bigger, fuller things than just guitar. So I totally get it.
Definitely.
All right, so now this is the now we'll get back to all the therapy and self-work. I'm not saying you're in therapy, all the work you've been doing. Here's that section of the interview where we go back to that, so it's good. Best decision you ever made?
Wow. The best decision that I ever made. I would say it was, well, I was an acting major in my high school. And when I saw John Michael Paris perform that piece, Sunburst, I felt like if I could do that, I could do anything. That if I could learn how to play that song, that there was nothing in life that I could not accomplish. That felt like the ultimate of something to accomplish. So the best decision I've ever made, I would say, was to dedicate my life to music. And it was in that moment that when I said, I'm going to do that. And, you know, some people go their whole life without ever making such a decision. It's like, oh, I could do this, I could do that, I could do this. And trust me, I'm that way too, because I'm very creative and my mind can get very distracted. But you know, to dedicate my life to music, I would say is the best decision that I ever made.
Another, it's a tough one. What's your definition of happiness?
My definition of happiness is service to others and being involved in a community and finding peace within the self. I actually read a book on happiness by the Dalai Lama. He worked with a Western psychologist to write a book called The Art of Happiness. Oh. And one of the things that they've proven in studies is some of the happiest people are the ones who provide acts of service regularly, which for me is being a public performer is an act of service. And people who are involved in communities, and often it is people who don't have a lot, that they're just grateful for what they do have. And so I always find that this is so true, because if I can be really far in my head or think that I'm too tired or I don't want to go on another tour or something, it's every single time I get on stage and see somebody else be moved by what I'm doing in that act of service, or talking to one of my students as like being a mentor to them and helping somebody in any way, or helping somebody get up if they fall down on the street, you know, that those little moments, that's happiness to me, because you realize there's a purpose of being here. There's more than just little me in my cabin, you know. There's a whole world out there. And the more I can engage with it, the happier I am. And it's good to be reminded of that.
That's great.
You know?
Yeah, I've read a lot of studies about happiness, and some of them also, the more you're socialization is a big factor for happiness as well. And I've seen that.
Absolutely.
This is a tough.
Absolutely. I completely agree.
This is a tough question. What do you like most about yourself?
I would say dedication to my life's work is what I like most about myself. And it is also, ironically, what can drive me a little nuts about myself too, because sometimes it's hard to turn off. It's like,
I totally
why? You've just gotten off like this entire trip. It's okay to not play guitar for a day.
Yeah.
But something in me is just like, no, gotta practice, gotta work. And I think also the dedication to the journey of that is part of what I like about myself too, and giving myself permission to just be sometimes and not let the life's work consume me. So that there's kind of a juxtaposition there to my answer. But
well, just remember, dedication and obsession are not the same thing, right?
Yes, exactly. You got to know when to let go. And that's one thing I'm really, really learning is this whole, I've heard this thing called the 80% rule of like, you know, because I can be a perfectionist and it can definitely, you know, make things take longer than they should.
Yeah.
Just like nitpicking about things. And what I'm really liking about myself in this moment is the ability to let go and say, it's done.
Good for
That's
you.
it. Nope, it's done. Move on. Keep going. And but it is hard, man. It's really hard. It's hard. Trying to figure that out each day. So
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Most exciting experience you've had?
The first thing that comes to mind is flying in a plane over Glacier Bay in Alaska.
Wow.
I've never seen anything like that. Yeah. And I wrote a piece about it called Soaring Over Glacier Bay that has been, I guess, one of my top songs on Spotify that I worked on with Will Ackerman on. But that just, it's so surreal to see things like that. And, you know, the world is just massive. And seeing Glacier Bay from a plane, I mean, it felt like another world. It's incredible.
Any hobbies outside of music and hiking?
Yeah, probably too many.
That's great.
I like reading, but probably yoga and anything active is a big part of my life. My mother and sister are both yoga teachers. And it's something I do every single day. My morning meditation and yoga practice. If I don't do it, I just don't smile as much.
That's great.
So it's very important to me, whether it's 5 minutes or 2 or 3 hours, depending on how much time I have. But you know, yoga would probably be the biggest one. I like anything active, fitness and exercise and sports. I like to move my body.
Very cool. Yeah, that's so important. As you get older, as you get older, you're going to realize how important that is, man, because everybody around you is just not doing that. And you're going to be just doing your life like normal because you've always done those things. Trust me.
Right. Absolutely.
Most important lesson your business has taught you?
The most important lesson that my business has taught me is honestly the first thing that comes to mind, that to not let my business take over my life and happiness, and to realize that I am a human and my business is an entity. It's a work. It's something that I enjoy, but to not let it take over my consciousness. I can find that when you're really dedicated to what you do, you can go so far into it and kind of lose yourself, lose your center. And I've seen it happen to me so many times, where it starts to take over, and where I could feel anxiety or feel like it's just so much and I can be overwhelmed. But what it's taught me is that I can always come back to right here, to my heart. I can always come back to my heart and breathe and feel the world around me, and realize that that is the most important thing in life. And if I have that and I can live my life from that space, then my business and my career and my music will be so much more successful. And that's why I meditate and do yoga.
That's really good.
Maybe an obscure answer. But
No, it's great. I think, who you are and what you do are ultimately not the same thing.
yes, exactly. So many people are defined by what they do. It's always like a question. It's like, oh, hi, my name is XYZ. And okay, cool. What do you do? And
Right.
it's like, okay, now I'm defined by what I do. I'm a human being. I like to breathe.
There you go.
I want to live. I want my heart to beat a little bit. And if my heart's beating and I'm breathing, then I'm doing okay,
Yeah.
So that's the most important.
Hey, 2 more questions, and I really appreciate your time and sincerity. First question is, tell me about a specific experience that either changed your life or changed the way you think about things.
I actually read a book called The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle.
Totally. Yeah.
And Eckhart Tolle, he wrote a book called The Power of Now, and that book changed my life, because there was one day when I was reading that book. Well, in the book, just as a little idea, it talks about how it's like if you're washing your hands, feel the water. If you're in the shower, feel the water on your body. Whereas most of our human beings run their life in a way where I'm washing my hands at the same time as my brain is thinking about the meeting that I'm about to do and where I have to be in 2 hours and what I'm going to make for lunch. And I don't even feel the water on my hands.
Yeah.
I lived so much of my life that way. I mean, most of my life has been run with that type of mentality. I'm always pages ahead, right? And I think that's really great for people who are very driven. But why The Power of Now changed my life is because I was able to, it was like for the first time I was able to really fully experience what it was that I was doing and understand why music is so powerful. Why? Because music to me is like the ultimate presence. When you're in music and you're creating something and you're playing and you're connected, there's something that where it's like all vibrations and frequencies come together. And I'll never forget when I was reading that book, I stepped outside, and it was when I was living at my uncle's house, and it was pouring down rain, and I was going to my car to get a cable because I had an idea and I wanted to record the idea and I needed to plug in my guitar. And I remember I went out, I opened the door and it was pouring down rain, and my instinct was to run to the car, get an umbrella and run to the car so I could get the cable. And instead of running, which is how my entire life has been, is running to that thing, I paused and I just stood there in the rain. And it was like the first time I'd ever felt water on my skin. It was the first time I had ever really experienced rain. I can't even explain it, but I was so moved to tears. And this might sound crazy, but it was the deepest presence that I've ever experienced in my life. In that moment, something changed, and I understood the power of now. I understood what it feels like for my mind and my body to be in the same place. And every single day, it's kind of like I'm still, I always want to try to recreate that. It's hard to do every moment. You know, we have so much going on. But I remember when I was reading that book, I had some moments like that, washing my hands, or where I played one note on the guitar and I wasn't thinking, oh, is my hand in the right place? Or is it, you know, any of the things that our mind can create over the matter of seconds. It was just this, and that's it, nothing else. And so that book changed my life. And simultaneously, I was reading a book called The Music Lesson by Victor Wooten. And he actually talks about very similar things, but it's integrated in music. So I was having a lot of really profound moments in the process of reading those books. And it's good to be reminded. So thank you for that.
Thank you. That is not only a great answer, but that is the best commercial for that book I have ever heard.
Really? Oh, good. Well, if it gives me an opportunity to meet Eckhart Tolle, then
yeah, there you
that
go.
would be awesome. I don't even know if I'd be able to talk to him. I would just want to just
you could
be there in his presence and breathe.
Oh, you'd be. That's
I would, but you know,
that's how people feel when they come see you play, though. And you might be like, why do you feel that way? But that's how everybody that's normal and got their ego in check anyway is.
Right.
You know,
that's true. I mean, people are all just human beings, and some who have pretty profound minds and talents. So, yeah, that's a good point.
Steve Vai, that book changed his life too. He gave me a very similar answer to that question. It was something else Eckhart Tolle wrote.
Really?
Yeah. His interviews.
Was it A New Earth?
No, it was a video he watched, but it was an Eckhart Tolle video.
Yeah. Wow. I didn't know Steve Vai was into that. I'm going to look forward to meeting him.
You should listen. You can listen to his interview. It's pretty deep. He's a very deep guy. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. I had an opportunity to play with him last year, and I ended up not going because I had to choose if I was going to fly to the other side of the country to be there for 3 hours. And I decided to choose my health over, over going to that gig. But I hope the opportunity does come back at another time for sure.
Well, if it does, talk to him about the book and you guys will have a great vibe. Trust me. He got moved by that a lot. So.
Wow. That's exciting. Very.
Last question, and thank you for everything. You're super professional and really cool person, and I wish you nothing but the best. And thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Craig.
Oh, you're welcome. Toughest decision you've had to make, or most difficult thing you've had to do?
Well, actually, in the moment right now, and I haven't even announced this publicly yet, but I had an opportunity to work with a very big producer, definitely a remarkable opportunity, and it's a really big endeavor. And there was a part of me that thought, as we start getting into all of the business and everything, that, oh, you know, I'm not in this place in my career to be ready to do something like this. And you know, there's a lot of stuff regarding trust that came up of like, you know, I've always been completely in control over so much of everything with my music, but there's something in me that really wants to go to another level, that wants to take a leap of faith. I want to play at the Grammys. I want to perform massive concerts for a lot of people, because I want to share the experience with more people. I want to see more people be moved and feel the community and the love. But there's been moments in my life, and this is one of them, where it's like I'm just like right there, and there's something that just holds me back. And I don't know what it is. I think it's lack of trust or wanting to stay in control, or fear of losing control, meaning like what happens when people have fame, like I've heard so many stories of like people all of a sudden getting really depressed because they don't know how to handle it. And I don't know what it is for me, to be honest, but what I do know is something happened in me recently when I decided that I don't want to live that way anymore. And I'm willing, I want to trust in the universe, and I want to trust in the opportunities and in other people. I know that I can't do it alone. And when I try to do it alone, number one, it takes forever.
Yeah.
Number two, the only thing that I have to bounce all my crazy, wild ideas off of is this ping pong inside of my head. And it can make anybody crazy. And I wanted so badly, I was like, you know what? I want to put trust into this person who has massive successful record after one, after another, after another, after another. And no, I don't want to wait until, what am I waiting for? Like, oh, I'll wait until XYZ happens. No, now. And I said yes, and I'm making it happen. And I can't really explain how big this is for me. Because I've had complete control over every record that I've ever done. And not to say I'm not going to have a say in this one, but I'm going to put a lot of trust in this person. And trust is a big thing for me. But when I put the trust within myself and decided that I was going to say yes to doing this in this way, in the way that he wants to do it, I had a vision, and I heard the record, and it was the most beautiful thing that I've ever heard in my life. And I was moved to tears, and surrendering to trust and surrendering to saying yes to a big opportunity that feels so much bigger than myself is huge. And saying yes took a lot of strength, and it's happening now. And the visions that I have had as a result of saying yes to this have been so profound, and I feel like it's going to be a remarkable milestone in my life and in my career, and I'm really excited about it. I can't wait to really announce that and everything that went into saying yes to it. Yeah.
I am really happy for you, and I hope this works out. And if you would like, the door is open once this record comes out. If you'd like to come back on the show, I will be happy to support it and promote it. And we can do a shorter show just about the record, and you can talk about your whole experience doing that. So, that's more than happy to do that if that's what you'd like to do.
That sounds perfect. Yes, thank you so much.
Come on in. First of all, thank you very much. I really appreciate everything. Really sweet and very kind and nice talking with you. And let me just tell people some of the stuff you have going on. First of all, September 22nd, Acoustic Guitarist of the Year. Is there anything like, there's no voting that we could do to push that, is there? This is just up to a panel of judges, correct?
No, there was voting and the judges up to this point, but once you get to the top three, you just go and perform at the UK Guitar Show and show up and do my best, and that's it.
Yeah. Well, kick ass on that. Also, people could find you on Facebook, facebook.com, Christie Lenee, and it's her, Christie spells the name, it's Christie, Christie. Lenee is Lenee. As she says, it's like Renee with an L. YouTube, it's Christie Lenee Music, and Instagram, it's Christie Lenee. She's got a new CD coming out shortly. It's called Circles Round the Sun. And do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so the CD, it is the, so I've been in the process of making this record for a while, but I've been doing it all myself in self-production granted, it's taking forever, like I was just talking about. And so I've released a few singles. I released Free World Citizen, which was originally going to be the title track of this particular album, but Circles Around the Sun is a lyric in the song, which ended up becoming the title. Free World Citizen, also, you can check out the music video online. It's me kind of dancing around in bare feet with a guitar in the mountains at Red Rocks and all kinds of panoramic mountain views. And it's a song about freedom and knowing we belong to everywhere, not just one place. Call My Heart Back Home was another single that came out with a really cool video that was really artsy and whimsical, with a mini puppet of me. So I would love for everybody to check it out. It's on my YouTube channel. It's called Call My Heart Back Home. So those are two of the singles. And I also put out a cover of Ed Sheeran's Castle on the Hill with a video, and recently did a bunch of live performances at the Villar Performing Arts Center in Colorado, and we got some great multi-track recordings of it. So I had 3 of those songs mixed, and then took like the best of. The intention is that my record that I'd been working on, with Free World Citizen being the title, is a big production. You know, there's background vocals and guitars, and when I started engaging in the conversation with various producers to help me finish it, I was in the process of making all these demos at home and in my home studio, and I found that these tracks that I've spent tons of time on, various studios, various layers, and all this production, I love those tracks, and I'm so excited for you to hear them. At the same time, I've been doing these demos at home where I'm literally playing and singing guitar at the same time. And I personally, and this is so funny to admit, I like them better than my big productions. I like my home demos that didn't cost me any money, that were just completely raw and uncut. And I started thinking, wait a minute, this is very strange. And so I took a little bit of a turn in the middle of making this record, because I realized that maybe the big production is not what my fans want, because they're showing up and watching me play and sing. They might not want to hear all these background vocals and all this other stuff, which is super cool. It's another part of my artistry, is layering and production. But when I listened to it from a listener standpoint, it was like, oh gosh, I like the raw acoustic thing. And so I decided that's the record, is the raw acoustic thing with some colors. And so it was kind of like, well, I have to start over now. And that was a big thing, because it's like, wait a minute, I've done all these big productions, and these like stripped down things aren't going to work. They're not the same record. Right. They're just not. And so I decided to take all those tracks that I did with the big production and previous tracks and make a compilation disc of the best things that I've done, and start a new record, which is the one that I'm getting ready to start now, that is stripped down acoustic with production, but it's focused on the guitar and the voice. And so Circles Around the Sun is going to be like the best of everything that I've done so far and released. And that will be the one CD that I take to Europe, because I wanted to not travel with 5 albums.
There you go.
So I thought a compilation is a good idea when traveling to a lot of countries anyway.
Yeah.
Put out everything that I have, all these singles that haven't made it onto a CD, and start from scratch the way, with this new intention of a more like raw acoustic kind of record. And so I'm excited. So it's kind of like all of these songs were supposed to be like the full next record, but then I changed course. So now it's all going on a compilation disc, and I'm starting another record.
Right.
So there you go.
Well, I will look forward to your.
But I'm really excited for everybody to hear it and check out the videos too. Yeah.
And I will look forward to your new record and hearing your new production as well. So that's awesome. Good luck.
I'm very excited.
Good luck on the contest. I know it's coming up soon.
Thank you so much.
My fingers are crossed for you. Let me say goodbye.
I'm feeling it.
I'm feeling it too. let me just wrap up, and
Yeah.
then you and I will
Awesome.
chat. Everybody, thank you so much
Hey,
for
thanks
listening.
everyone so much for listening.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Thanks, everybody, for listening. If you enjoy this, please share it on your social media channels. We appreciate your support. If you haven't checked out Christie Lenee's music, please check it out. She's a brilliant guitar player, a beautiful lyricist, and a great, talented musician. And keep your fingers crossed for her at the Guitarist of the Year, Acoustic Guitarist of the Year. Make sure you go to everyonelovesguitar.com, sign up to get on our newsletter list so you and I can connect. And most important, remember that happiness is a choice, so choose wisely. Be nice, go play your guitar, and have fun. Till next time, peace and love, everybody. I'm out. Thanks, Christy.